Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of a tournament report from Black Crow Gaming. I'm Toby Bennett. Usually you might know me from doing the Lion's Den where I do Dark Angels content. But today I'm going to be talking about a recent Crow exploit at the Autumn ITT, which is the Autumn International Teams Tournament organised by the UKTC down in Hertfordshire this year. There's 117 teams there, so there was just shy of 600 people, so my goodness, there was a lot of people, especially when there's loads of colds flying around, so there's a few people that have gone home poorly. There was a plethora of absolutely class teams there as well. Your War Masters, your Ignites, Try Hard. If I try and list off all of these teams, I'm going to forget people. So it was very much also dependent a little bit on your run. And if you had pairings that didn't put you into like multiple extremely powerful teams, and I think that was definitely a part to it. But equally, there was so many high quality players there, and there's really been a massive step up in, say, the last year of the UKTC, where I think players are really like teaching each other, supporting each other, and really going to that next level. So it's fantastic to see, and it's great to see some new names going on the list as well. And in all honesty, it really felt like this was the opportunity that my team, Crow Team 6, was able to kind of stamp our mark on the UKTC teams. We've done well before. We got a 6th at the last teams tournament, but that was also when a lot of players were at the WTC. So it was a case of, right, can we repeat this when the creme de la creme of UK gaming is currently here? And it went better than we could have hoped. Our makeup was Paul Bridge on Raven Guard, myself on Sisters, Darren Chapman on Drakari, Dit Simu on Necrons, and Sam Dickinson on World Eaters. So obviously you might know Sam from the World Eaters series that he does, or as I will now refer to him for the rest of this video, Princess Sam, because that was his official title throughout. And of course he took his princess duties very, very seriously and absolutely smashed the competition to pieces. He was incredible all weekend, even though he did lose his voice. Then we decided that we wanted to try and play. So this is the first time that I've not been playing the Marines. Obviously, usually I am playing the Dark Angels, but we had Paul on Votan previously, and we weren't sure about Votan in the current set, but we knew that Raven Guard, particularly playing on UKTC boards, especially with their light board available, Raven Guard were exceptionally strong. So the logic was Paul had a lot of reps with the original sort of Vanguard list that John Lennon championed. And obviously that's not on UKTC terrain, but there was definitely some similarities there. So we thought, well, it's a very natural transition for him with the army that we're a little bit concerned about in terms of quality to switch across to that Raven Guard, which then left me with, well, what on earth do I play? And if you've been looking at the meta recently, you'll see that Sisters have just gone from strength to strength recently, and I have been thoroughly impressed with their ability, but they also fit a style that I used to play right at the start of my playing journey, which was Firestorm Dark Angels. Great fun little list, probably not the most competitive, but I really enjoyed it. Had to go into players like Vic VJ and Josh Roberts with it. I think there is a review where Vic VJ says that my list was a bit crap, which is more than fair. It was still a great fun game. He did hand me my arse on a plate, funnily enough, with Sisters. So I decided that Bringers of Flame would be something that I could naturally transition to. I like Melters. I like that kind of style and aggression. And I also like having more units with that. So Sisters really spoke to me in that regard. We had the kind of not classic but similar Drakari list for Reaper's Wager, but we had a lot more pain engines in there for that survivability, just so that they could take some of those potentially poorer matchups and stand up and score us those points. We had Necrons in Hypercrypt, which was definitely off meta. I think most Necrons there were in Star Shatter, with a couple in Canoptic Court as well. But I just thought that our Necron player Ditz absolutely played out of his skin. He is most comfortable on Hypercrypt. That's been his bread and butter for a very long time. The sort of the machine gun style destroyers just really, really play to his style. And he performed exceptionally when we were putting him into some really tough matchups. And considering he played against two people that he'd played previously, one of them very recently, and had scored very, very low on, in that particular game, he ended up coming out with 9 points. It just shows that team's difference of like, actually, it doesn't really matter if you come away with a loss if it benefits your team to the point where, yes, you can go away and go, yeah, we got to this point. And I really think that those Hypercrypt Necrons were very good at doing that, particularly when there was as many World Eaters running around as there were. And then finally we had very classic World Eaters for UKTC terrain. It wasn't the 40 or 50 Zerkers. I think it was 30. Khan, 20 Brick, and friends doing the nasty stuff. So not quite as pushy as the WTC lists that you might see from like Innes Wilson. But still very much a heavy push list, and that is how we used Sam. We got him into the matchups that he wanted, and then he delivered us the 20s. It was really as simple as that, and that core element around our team just gave the rest of us a little bit more freedom. Just even if we were in those poorer matchups, just to kind of try and maybe leverage skill expression or just play for those few points that we could get, and that definitely comes up later in the video. So without further ado, we'll go into round 1, which was versus Bristol Crusaders, second team. So the Bristol guys, really lovely team. We had a lot of fun against them. I think they were, I think Struan, the lovely Struan Robertson from Team Scotland and Mind Goblins had got in their ear a bit, bless them, over on their Discord. They had suggested that they should flirt with me to distract with me, which is an excellent idea, and I thoroughly endorse that. Please do that, everyone. But I think they were a little bit nervous going into the game. I ended up against CK, which was triple despoiler, but 2 of the Gatling despoilers and 1 with the like Melter Lances. Then there was a Rampager and some Carnivores as well. So it was very much a table U list rather than like scoring. It needed to go for that like oomph and push. And when I saw the deployment was quite pushed back and quite it allowed me to get board presence very early on. And especially when Sisters have now got access to Sanctifiers and so many scouting units, especially if they go first, they can just push for that early board control, which is what I really did. And because we were playing Terraform, I pushed for that early board control, got triple Terraform off, and then just went, okay, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to let you shoot me with that indirect. I'm going to wait until you start poking out, and then I'm going to start doing my thing. And the nice thing is with Sanctifiers, the fact that they can regenerate is just obnoxious, because with that 5-up invarn, they bounced off a Carnivore hitting them. They bounced off all of the indirect from the army shooting them in the centre, and they just survived far longer than they deserved to, and then they brought guys back. So Sanctifiers really do feel like the new hotness for Sisters. I was thoroughly impressed with them all weekend. And those one-shot flame weapons, whew, they are tasty. So very, very impressed with that. But to be honest, I feel like I misplayed a little bit, because when the Magma despoiler came out, I had to throw a little bit too many resources at it, including Val. And he still obviously had double despoiler left and a Rampager. And I tried to make it so that I'd screened off, Val's unit from being hit by too much. But unfortunately, the screens all ended up folding, and I lost Val. But luckily, because I'd lost a reasonable amount of units, my Retributors really stepped up, went really Super Saiyan, and some Dominions just with those melters. The fact that Miracle Dice, because I'd lost so many units, I had so many Miracle Dice available to me, and enough of them were of that 5 and 6 that you can go, okay, 1 melter's gone through, that's 8 damage. It was just brutal. It was, because you only need 3 to go through to kill a Big Knight. And that was really what it was doing. So I think at the end there was maybe 1 Carnivore left. All of the Big Knights were dead. I got really nice. I got a little sneaky one with my Calidus where I was able to pick it up, sneak it behind my opponent's lines, because they'd sticky their home objective, managed to get on, and I feel like maybe that strat's a 5OC thing. They might have got that wrong. Maybe that needs checking. I've only just realised that, but oh well. If they didn't know, I guess that's just the case. Unfortunate, but yeah, the game's gone now. To be fair, it wouldn't have changed the result. Probably would have made the maybe like a 17-3 or a 16-4. But yeah, so Calidus sneaks in, steals the home objective and terraforms it, which was very, very handy. At which point then I was able to start kind of pushing those last few big knights and really go for the kill, because then there was just too many sisters on the board for them to pick up, and they still had to kill off my tanks that were sort of floating around doing castigatory things. So it was a really good round one. We won that. I think it was about 88-12. So pretty convincing wins all round. We got the 5 wins. So we go into round 2 and we see our pairing, and we were up against BG UK Nemesis Gaming, really great group of guys. I was up against a chap called Matisse and his Space Wolves, and this one felt like a really bad round for me, to be honest. I did not feel confident into any of them because it was Purge the Foe. There was a Drakari one which I was like, okay, I can probably get a pretty drawish game out of. The 18 Thunderwolves that I ended up playing, and I was like, oh, I'm not getting kill more against them, and they're definitely getting kill more against me. Then there was a Monolith Necrons, which I was like, I would quite like to go into that because, again, Melters doing Melter things into vehicles is very, very tasty, and Val doing Val things into vehicles is very, very mean. I can't remember. I think there was a World Eater and an Admech as the other two. So I was just like, this doesn't feel like the kind of matchup for me. So I said that to my team, communicated that, and they went, absolutely fine. Let's just see and just go for the drawish score. You know, just score your 8 points a turn on primary. Try not to get killed more too many times, and just see where you end up. Now, Matisse went for a very aggressive tactic of throwing all 18 Thunderwolves in my face, basically turn 1. Picked up a Rhino and picked up some Sanctifiers, but that was it. So I was like, okay, we're cooking. I can go for this now. And I managed to pick up, I think it was 13 of the Thunderwolves, leaving 3 in one squad and 2 in another. The other 2 were then promptly picked up by Val's unit in Overwatch and Heroic. And the other 5, I don't think they survived very much longer. I think they managed to career into an Immolator, but then were killed by some Retributors that jumped out afterwards. And with some Rep X's just not really being able to get through the mix of a 4-up invuln on Val's unit and the what's it called, Miracle Dice on the save, it just kind of allowed me to keep Val, keep activating her, keep causing problems, and because Val kept activating multiple times, it's allowed me to kind of just push that, and eventually kind of, I'm pretty sure I ended up tabling the Space Wolves in the end because it was quite low unit count, and it got to the point where my profiles matched up very nicely. There was a big push from Arjak and the 10 Terminators, which did nearly break my line, but I was able to get in there with Val, disrupt, cause issues, and then when Logan on his own went for Val, I was able to use Miracle Dice to keep her alive, and Miracle Dicing saves, and just about past my 4-ups. So that put me in a really good spot to then pick up Logan and keep pushing. So it ended up being a 13-7, quite a close game still, because of that sheer aggression kind of keeping me at that level. And I think, there's an argument where if that aggression works, I get 20'd, and that's a really good push round for them. I think the only saving grace of that, again, is Sanctifiers. They are the unit that stop you getting pushed too hard early because they present that Overwatch threat. They're a great screen. They've got 5-up invuln. They don't have anything else but 5-up invuln. Sometimes you just scam your opponent. They're just annoying. They're just really, really good little units. So I've been thoroughly impressed with them again. But yeah, so that was a 13-7. So we're going into round 3, and we're expecting, this is where, this is usually where the ICT is where you start meeting other sharks. And we got Typhoon, who very much are another shark. Very good team. Funnily enough, actually, their captain won Most Sporting. So big shout out to Stan Peddle for winning that. Typhoon are a great group of guys, really good friends of ours, and it was a really, really fun game. Very, very intense at times for sure. Like it was, can we get these angles to really start punishing each other? I think maybe the aggression, and Warren and I spoke about this afterwards. The Vanguard vets were very aggressive, and they did well. They slaughtered a castigator, and they put a lot of pressure on me. But then they died quite soon after, and that inability to really kind of punish me when they're rushing my centre, which I think is the right thing to do on Search and Destroy against Sisters on UKTC, rush the centre, but they needed to pressure my flanks a little bit more so I couldn't just flow out the sides and around them, which was what I ended up focusing on doing. And we had a big old scrap on his expansion objective, and again, Sanctifiers scammed him. 6 missiles from the Centurions went into them, and the squad didn't die. Sometimes you just scam people with 5-ups and then you regen dudes, and you can regen dudes and get them on objectives that way, and you can just super sneaky little things. It's really, really obnoxious. Again, Sanctifiers, buy them now, folks. They're great. And I just think the amount of Overwatch threats as well really threaten that kind of secondary melee punch that Raven Guard can present. And at that point, you can kind of play around, because you've got the units, you can kind of play around where those dev cents can go. And yeah, they'll pick up your tanks for fun, but it's like, okay, they've shot at 5 sisters. Cool, I've lost 5 sisters. C'est la vie, like 105-point Retribution unit even, like it's not a disaster. Or I've lost this Rhino and now I've got out and I've shot you with Retributors. So, there's a lot to be said, I think, for that matchup. I think it is definitely favoured for Sisters. And I think it definitely benefited that I was able to kind of push that so aggressively. Because, again, we had Necrons into CK, which is a terrible, terrible matchup, but Ditz absolutely pulled 9 points out of his backside, which was utterly incredible. So massive well done to him. So round 4, we went into Polaris. And I was up against Rowan with his Emperor's Children. That was a really, really different Emperor's Children. It was Peerless Bladesman with 9 Flawless Blades, Fulgrim, tons of Infractors, the Combat Lords they've got, some Tormentors, Rhino, all that kind of stuff. And my God, it was close. So he was just focusing on denying me primary and just tagging me up. And it was so difficult to play around. It really, really made me sweat. I did have a rather beautiful moment where a squad of Retributors just picked up Fulgrim in a single activation, which was exceptional. But then I was able to kind of keep pushing that way. And I think because he did have end of game scoring on Linchpin, but I was able to table him. So game ended 71-71, which is a 10-10 draw dead on. And that was more than fair reflection of the game. It was such a difficult game. I think Emperor's Children are actually quite a poor matchup for Sisters. So I think I definitely matrixed that one incorrectly. And then obviously Rowan was a very, very talented player with a very incredible little sigil that his mum had drawn for Polaris. So that was really sweet. And Polaris, funnily enough, we actually ended up drawing with. So we were 3 wins and 1 draw. Exceptional round, really just very talented players. And I think it was they're very experienced players, but I think it was their first time playing as a team. So it was really cool to see that. And I can't wait to see them at the next few events. I think they're going to be an absolute powerhouse and continue to be an absolute powerhouse. Then finally, we went into Pile of Shame Support Network 1s, which we were thrilled about because we've met some of their guys before. They've been lovely. We know that it's going to be a nice, chill, fun game. And that was exactly what it was. My opponent, Anthony, and I had a phenomenal time. We were just chatting away, really kind of having that banter, but also supporting each other in terms of those movements and making sure that everything was sort of going as we wanted it to. And it was just a really, really lovely way to end the day. I must admit, I was not happy when I saw this pairing. Orcs is a disastrous pairing for sisters on WTC terrain, and that was mostly where I've been prepping. So I looked at it and I was like, I might just get 20'd here. This is not good. And then I saw some of the other pairings coming in, and I was like, I think we've lost. Like, I think we're going to lose this on just on pairings alone. We had Necrons into World Eaters, which was not a good matchup for our Necron. It's usually something that Sam 20s. We had World Eaters into Eldari, which is a good matchup for them. As long as the Eldari opponent makes at least one error, if they make one error, the game's a 20. If they make 0 errors, it's a lot harder. So that's a very tough one for both players, because World Eater has to wait for that moment and capitalize on it. Eldari player has to just try and not make any errors. So really interesting technical game there. And then we had Raven Guard into Raven Guard, which is very drawish, but actually really ended up swinging the way of a Pile of Shame support network. So that was a tough one, because we had Death Guard into Drakari, which is also not a very good matchup for them, because I'd gone down as first defender, which I think was quite a surprise. And it's definitely something where maybe towards the end of a team's tournament, you're like, okay, we were probably a bit tired and we definitely made some errors there. So it's something that I think as a team, luckily we're mature enough to kind of look back and dissect that. So I'm looking forward to kind of going over that with the guys, working out how we can do better, how we can improve that matchup. And particularly if we had to go on to the Shadow Round, how we can have that sort of mental fortitude to keep going into that. So I was up against Anthony, as I mentioned, Gaz and the 20 boys, a couple of battle wagons, some commandos, obviously, so 10 and then split to 5s. There was a couple of units of grots, I think 3 units of knobs with war bosses, a couple of units of breaker boys, and 2x5 of flash gits. So lots and lots of killy stuff. But I went first as well on Taken Hold. So I was like, okay, this is not good as well. But essentially, I just focused on board control, and I went, okay, he had nothing in reserve, so I'm going to abandon my middle completely. I'm going to abandon that central objective. I'm just going to use that as a shooting gallery, because it's UKTC. It is pretty damn open in the middle. And I'm just going to flood around the flanks. And even though Gaz is as quick as he is, I'm just going to try and stay as far away as possible, and then maybe give him like an immolator or something like that he can go and charge on his war turn, and then get that done and out the way. And that's exactly what I was able to do. I was able to rush the flanks, pick up all the commandos turn 1. So those trading units were already going a bit lighter. Suddenly, Anthony has to push forward with a battle wagon on one flank, and I've got 2 castigators in reserve. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Retributors jump out, shoot the battle wagon, pick it up, which was a bit lucky, to say the least. And then the way I just blocked the battle wagon's disembark, so that all of the guys that were inside had to get out within line of sight of the castigators, at which point they got absolutely pumped. And I think there was 17 guys. No, 18 guys in the battle wagon. By the end of my shooting phase, there was no battle wagon and 2 guys remaining. And it's just a bit crazy that it was able to do that. That strength of shooting was just a little bit obnoxious, to say the least. So I was very impressed with that particular moment. I think the way that I would continue to play Orcs, again, it was Sanctifiers yeeting themselves out and being able to get within 6 inches of these Orcs and pick them up. I think if I'd gone second, it would have been, I don't know. I really don't know, because I think the fact that I went first forced me to push and forced me to be aggressive, because I was hoping to go for quite a drawish game, but then halfway through the round, our Raven Guard player Paul comes over and goes, I need you to push, which was quite worrying, because obviously we'd had a 20 with the Eldari quite early on. So you're like, great, okay, we can chill a bit. And then that very much wasn't the case. It was like, no, we need you to push. Ditz, again, absolutely pulled another win. He pulled a win out of his backside against World Eaters. I was so impressed. He just managed to kind of like kite them and use that hypercrypt ability to kind of just switch ends of the board and go for the opponent's home and like let them have his. But then suddenly they're kind of in the middle and there's more opportunities to shoot them, blah, 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 blah. That kind of stuff. And it worked out really well. And I think there was an element where like the lists we were against were absolutely brutal. But looking back, it feels like they might have been WTC lists. So like it was Innes's WTC list, and we've looked at that, but we didn't think that it was quite what you'd want to play on UKTC because you don't have the crates that only berserkers can go through because of the rule of the Lord on Juggernaut and all that kind of stuff. So it was. I think we were able to kind of react a little bit faster because we had the experience into those lists in other contexts, which then allowed me to kind of push my matchup and come away with a 19-1. And we very narrowly squeaked that out with, we were all getting very, very stressed watching our Drakari player losing to Death Guard, but we just needed 3 points out of the game. But we couldn't see the score, and like when he's that much in the tank, you don't want to interrupt the process. So we were literally just sitting there like, come on. And then he got 5 points out of it. So massive props to Darren for getting us those 5 points, giving us that win and putting us to third place. And we got to go home early because we didn't make the shadow round, which is even better because I'll be honest, at that point we were all exhausted and Sam had completely lost his voice. So a really great tournament, really enjoyable. Lots of lovely people met. Massive shout out to Pile of Shame Support Network for doing as well as they did, because the first thing they said to us when they walked up was like, we aren't usually up here. So to have that growth and to see particularly a new name, because we saw Polaris new name, obviously very experienced players, but new name is that at the team circuit. Pile of Shame Support Network, again, new name. And I don't even think Bristol Crusaders have been going that long. Typhoon is still a new team, but they are, again, very experienced players, very high quality players. So, there was it was really good to see so many high quality players turning up, doing their thing and doing as well as they did. And to be able to perform in that context, particularly with an army that I'm quite new to, I was absolutely thrilled. Overall, brilliant event. We could have used a bit more space, in all honesty, between tables. It was very tight, but it was very entertaining, and I'm really looking forward to the winter ITT that comes up. I think it's end of January, start of February. And who knows what army I'll be playing by then. Maybe it'll be Orcs. Maybe it will be Tyranids. It's not going to be Tyranids. It will be now, but it's not going to be Tyranids. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to our sponsors, Glasshammer Gaming, Terrainforge, Gambit Gaming, and Trident Futureworks for their ongoing support, especially as we grow. That's been really fantastic. I'm going to give a massive shout out to Daz from Carnage, who came over to chat to me about my Dark Angels content. So thank you for doing that. And obviously, we always love meeting people that enjoy our content, always love having a natter about Warhammer. That's the reason we play it. We're all just massive nerds and we enjoy that. And also, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this and more tournament reports, let me know, because then I can do more of them. Obviously, usually I'm doing Dark Angels content, but because of a couple of different things, I'm trying out some different factions at the moment. So if you want to see more of this, let us know in the comments below. Drop us a like, all that kind of stuff. If you don't, stay quiet. No, let us know, because obviously we don't want to do content that you don't want to see. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. And remember, stay loyal, fuckers, because I'm still going to say that because that's my thing and I'm still loyal to the Emperor. So yeah, really hope you enjoy, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.